Hey everyone, this is Aaron from Studio 3B. So in my previous video, I took my macOS Ventura installation and I upgraded it to Sonoma right from the App Store. This is version 14.0 that was just released within the last few days or weeks. And it all went fine, but there were some incompatibilities with my FenV T919 Bluetooth and Wi-Fi adapter. When I went to go fix that, it broke other things with my graphics acceleration. And basically the fix involved overriding some kexts, dropping in some new kexts, and running the OCLP Legacy Patcher. And to me, I think even this is getting a little bit hacky to get the Wi-Fi to work. So at this point, I wanted to downgrade back to Ventura. It was running stable and everything was fine with that. I have backups on Time Machine. Fortunately, in my previous video, I did mention that it is important to do backups. Also, I've been wanting to do a macOS installer guide from Linux, so I figured now's a great time. I have Fedora installed here on another disk in this computer, and I thought this was a good environment to get a Linux tutorial going for making a macOS installer. Okay guys, here I have a Linux installation. This is Fedora Linux version 38 Workstation Edition. I've got a Haswell PC and here are the specs on it. I've got an i7 CPU and I also have an external AMD Radeon RX 580 graphics card. That's going to help performance significantly over the onboard HD 4600 graphics. Okay, so what we need to do to get started is grab your browser and go to the Making an Installer in Linux guide on the Dortania website. So go to dortania.github.io and the OpenCore install guide for Linux. So get your 4 GB or larger USB stick. Okay, so what you're going to do first is download macOS. So go to macrecovery.py and get that from the OpenCore installer. So I'm going to download the debug version. The reason why we use the debug version to start is to catch a lot of extra logs in case you're struggling to install macOS. So now we have that downloaded. So now go to a terminal and go to your downloads and unzip the OpenCore debug zip. Now go to the Mac Recovery folder. So that's going to be in Downloads, OpenCore Utilities, Mac Recovery. So let's go there. Okay. And now what you do is you run one of these commands based on which version of macOS you want to install. So we're going to do the latest, macOS Ventura. So copy this Python command and paste it in here in the terminal. And what that's going to do is download the macOS installer. Great. When that's done downloading, you should see the recovery image chunk list and DMG files. So let's go check that out. So you go to Downloads and go to Utilities, Mac Recovery. And now you have this folder, com.apple.recovery.boot, and you should see these two files here. Great. Okay, the next thing we want to do is create the installer on the thumb drive. So what we have to do is, we have to partition the thumb drive first. First, you're going to insert your thumb drive and do sudo fdisk-l. Put your password in. So that's going to list all the disks that are available for formatting. You should only choose your USB thumb drive, which is my cruiser dial here. So that's dev SDF. So make sure you're using the right disk and you don't accidentally format a actual solid state disk or something you have installed in your computer. But sudo fdisk/dev/SDF. And if it says this message, that means the disk is currently mounted. So you want to quit that. Okay, first thing you want to do is lsblk. and that shows where our mounts are. So we have the USB thumb drive dev SDF mounted on this location. So let's copy this location and unmount that drive, because we're going to partition this drive. We can't have it mounted. So let's do sudo unmount, which is UMOUNT, and paste in the path by Control-Shift-V, the location where the drive is currently mounted. And you have to have a / in front of every space. There we go. So now if we lsblk, you'll see that dev SDF1 is no longer mounted. So that's our USB drive. So we're going to have to format that drive. So go to sudo fdisk /dev /SDF. Okay, you want to make sure you're on the right disk. What we're going to do is press M for help, and that gives you a list of commands. What we're going to do is G, create a new empty GPT partition table. Okay, and then what we're going to do is N for new partition. And it's going to be the first partition, and then the first sector is the default, and the last sector can be the end of the USB drive, or at least 4 gigabytes. So let's just make it the end of the USB drive for simplicity's sake. So just press enter. And I'm going to remove any signature that's already on there and press yes. Once that's done configuring the partition table, just press W for write. So you write the partition table to the disk. And this is a destructive process, so you're going to lose everything on the USB drive. Now that the drive has a partition table, you need to create a partition. So lsblk shows that there's still dev SDF1 there. That's the partition we just created. So we need to sudo make fs dot, and if you look at the command down here, it is vfat. So they want to use a fat partition with 32 as the option. So make vfat -f32 dev SDF1. And what this is doing is making a fat file partition out of dev SDF1. It's actually formatting that partition into a fat partition. And that's something that can be read by just about any operating system. Okay, so now what we do is we copy everything from the downloads x64 EFI folder, because this is a 64-bit architecture, and you should have the 31 gigabyte volume here, and you should just paste that EFI folder right in there. Alright, and you should also go to Utilities, Mac Recovery, and copy this COM Apple Recovery boot. Place that right in the root of the USB thumb drive. Give that a second to finish copying. Great, once that folder is done copying, then what you want to do is follow the instructions for setting up the EFI by removing all the files that are not necessary. So just follow this picture, follow the guide, go to your USB drive, and you want to keep this boot x64 EFI. You want to go to OC drivers, and you want to delete everything but open runtime. So just select the first file, shift click the last file, and then control click open runtime EFI, and leave that file, but just delete everything else. Okay, and then go to OpenShell. Under Tools, you should keep OpenShell, and delete everything else. Okay, and you should have OpenCore EFI here. All right, good. Now, next thing we need to do is gather our files. So make sure you know your hardware, and you should go to firmware drivers and download HFS Plus EFI. And let's copy that to our drive. So go to downloads, copy HFS Plus EFI, and go to your USB drive in OC drivers and paste that there. Okay, you're going to want lulu.kext. So I'm going to grab the debug version, which subsequently should be replaced by the release version when you're done installing. So let's extract that, and let's copy the kext folder and put that in our EFI OC kext directory. And we're going to do this for all the other drivers we need to download. So kexts are kernel extensions, and they need to be used to be run by macOS. So virtual SMC, kex. I'm going to use the processor and Super IO and virtual SMC directories, and I'm going to put those in EFI OC kex. Okay, and then we need whatever green. That's a required one. So download that. Copy just the kex directory. Don't copy the debug folder or any of the other folders. Just copy the kext folders to kext. All right, we also need Intel Mousy if you have an Intel Ethernet card. So I'm going to copy that one. Just the kext folder. EFI OC kex. Okay. And now USB, you're going to need the USB map done. So you could either do the USB toolbox method, or you could use the USB map method. So in my other video, I talk about the USB mapping in macOS, and that's how I go about doing the ports. So just to get booted up, we're going to do the USB toolbox kex just to get booted up. So just download the USB toolbox debug version and copy the USB toolbox in utb default.kext folders, and put that for now into your EFI OC kex directory. And that should be just about it for your kexts. Next thing we're going to want to do is go to your downloads, go to docs, and copy the sample.plist and put that in your EFI OC directory, but rename it to config.plist. So just right mouse click rename config.plist. And then you want to edit this in proper tree. So you need to download proper tree. So just go to a tab and click proper tree and download that. Open that up, and then go to a terminal and cd to /downloads/property capital P master and Python 3 property.py. And now if you get this error message, no module found tk enter, you got to look that up on Google, and you see that you have to install this package. So there's another package you need to install, dnf install python 3 tk enter, and then install that. if we try to run proper tree again, you get this program to run. Then you want to open on, and this is kind of an awkward interface to use, but you need to go to a terminal and you need to lsblk. You need to see where you're mounted for your thumb drive. So this is where I'm mounted here. This is the default that it mounted it at. So if you're having trouble finding things, you may want to mount it in a location that you could find. So I'm going to put dev sdf1 at the mount location. So now if I lsblk, I'm also at mount. So I could find my thumb drive a lot easier if I know where I mounted it. So let's go to File, Open, and we'll go to Mount, and then we'll go to EFI OC config.plist. And now it's going to start to get a lot like the other videos where you configure your config.plist. So building the EFI is kind of independent of your operating system. So you could refer to my other videos if you're not sure how to get your EFI built. Hit spacebar here. Okay, so you can either restore from Time Machine, or what I'm going to do is just reinstall macOS Ventura on top of it. I'm going to see if that can downgrade from Sonoma without losing any data or anything like that. Let's try that. So it didn't want me to do that. I guess I have to use the Time Machine backup. So let's try Time Machine. So I have it on another server. Oh, it's the Samba user here. So if I were to pick a restore point, it would be last night at 8:06. That's right before I did the previous video of installing Sonoma. So I think this is, yeah, 13.5.2. So I'm going to go back to that and see if I can do that. It says I must use Migration Assistant to transfer data from this backup. Reinstall macOS if necessary. Use Migration Assistant to transfer your data. Let's try and I tried to install macOS, but it's not letting me select my disk. So maybe what I have to do is wipe the disk out. Let's go to Disk Utility. Oof, I hope the backup works. Let's do Macintosh SSD. Guess I'm gonna erase that. Okay, now hopefully it will let me quit Disk Utility. Hopefully it will let me reinstall macOS Ventura. There we go. Now let's just let that run. Okay, once you make it back to the installer, select the region. So I'm going to do from a Time Machine backup. And I'll put back that server name and then your Samba username. So I'm using a Samba share for my Time Machine backup. So it looks like it's in Pacific time. I'm actually in Eastern, but I think Sunday, October 1st was my last backup. And I think that was done here at 5 Pacific. And I think that's 8 o'clock Eastern. So that was my last backup on Ventura. And I'll just restore the whole thing. Boom, it should be all back to normal. It did take quite some time, but it is one fallback method that you have if something goes wrong with an upgrade, is to use Time Machine. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.